while Donald Trump was paying tribute to Arnold Palmer in Pennsylvania, Kamala Harris was planning a swing state tour with Liz Cheney, and this week, it's underway. Liz Cheney and Kamala Harris make a play for GOP women in blue wall suburbs. That's right. They are sweeping the Rust Belt. Kamala Harris and Liz Cheney. Vice President Kamala Harris made a concerted effort on Monday to appeal to Republican women in the nation's suburbs, using former Representative Liz Cheney of Wyoming as her ambassador to conservatives during events in well-to-do suburbs of the biggest cities in 3 important battleground states. Stumping together in town hall-style settings before intimate crowds at small theaters in the Detroit, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia suburbs, Ms. Harris and Ms. Cheney presented a united front against former President Donald J. Trump, though it was Ms. Cheney who offered the clearest rationale for why Republicans should vote for Ms. Harris. On abortion rights, national security, and foreign policy, Ms. Cheney painted Mr. Trump as irresponsibly dangerous, while describing Ms. Harris as the safer, reasonable choice to maintain the stability of the country and protect women's health. Kamala HQ, very, very proud of these joint appearances here. So here is a video clip that they tweeted out of Liz Cheney making the case for Kamala.
I think that we are facing a choice in this election. It's not about party. It's about right and wrong. And I certainly have many Republicans who will say to me, I can't be public. They do worry about a whole range of things, including violence, but they'll do the right thing. And I would just remind people, if you're at all concerned, you can vote your conscience and not ever have to say a word to anybody. And there will be millions of Republicans who do that on November 5th. Vote for Vice President Harris.
You can keep it to yourself. Secret ballot. Secret ballot. You don't have to tell anybody that you're voting for Kamala Harris. And she thinks millions of moderate suburban Republicans are going to do that. Hey, look, it's possible some will. That this is why the election outcome is so uncertain, because we know there's hidden Roe votes. We know a decent amount of Republicans have voted pro-choice in recent years. There's no way Kansas gets to 60-40 pro-choice if that doesn't happen. I don't know about millions, but she's saying there, hey, you don't have to tell anybody. You can go in and vote for Kamala. Is this the play a healthy and winning campaign is making with 2 weeks to go? Probably not.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I've never seen them come to any left faction with such a conciliatory tone.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember when Sanders was gaining a lot of popularity in spite of the Bernie bro narrative with young women. Madeleine Albright, who once said that 500,000 Iraqi children's death was a worthwhile price to pay, and that the Iraq policy was absolutely correct, even in light of that, said, not thinking about the place in hell that was probably already reserved for herself, there's a special place in hell for women who don't support other women. That is not like the treatment these Republicans are getting.
No.
Republicans get a nice spa treatment, nice hot stone massage. You're on the left, you get the fire and brimstone. How dare you? How dare you, you little bastards? You're going to vote for Hillary and you're going to like it. Right?
Yep.
This is why Abandon Harris has it exactly right. Exactly right. They are the first major Democratic Party faction to ever figure out, oh, you know what? You know the best way to get leverage? Don't vote for them.
Exactly. And keep that going to and through the day of the vote.
Yes.
Don't fold at the last minute,
as a
uncommitted,
threat.
uncommitted 3 weeks before. Oh, okay, well, now you got to vote against Trump. We're not endorsing Kamala, but you have to vote against Trump and not for a third party. But that's not an endorsement of Kamala Harris, right?
And since they gave us this sack of cash behind a bus station, we're going to make a video about Project 2025 that in no way was paid for by the DNC.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But We're not done. That was just one stop. They go on. There was relatively little discussion of the economy, and Miss Harris delivered lines that result in big cheers at her rallies in a more measured, calm voice. One exchange in Pennsylvania that did bring the crowd to life seemed to be a surprise to the vice president when she reiterated a need for a healthy two-party system. Now, I had to search a little bit for this video because they described this in the Times article, and I'm like, no, it's not good enough to read it. I have to find this video somewhere, and it wasn't on Twitter, but I was able to track it down, and this is worth it in a sense. This is some more anti-content, folks. This is cringe. This is big-time cringe here. So here's this moment.
I feel very strongly that, for example, on the issue of partisanship, yes, we're going to have disagreements, but I actively invite good ideas from wherever they come. That's why I'm going to have a Republican in my cabinet, by the way. Because I want good ideas. And by the way, I know it is in our best interest as a nation, in the interest of our strength and our future as a nation. We need a healthy two-party system. We need a healthy two-party system. We need to be able to have these good, intense debates about issues that are grounded.
Do we allow the billionaires to become trillionaires? Or do we try to keep them at the billionaire level? We need to have that debate.
I'm going to bring Republicans in to do it.
Fact.
Imagine.
Let's start there.
You got to get that whole sentence in.
Fact. Intense debates about issues that are grounded in fact.
Imagine.
Let's start there. Can you believe that's an applause line? But you know,
Oy.
it's
Oy is right. Learn that from Doug, I guess. Oy. Oy. That's the smartest thing you've said in a very long time. Oy. Oy is right.
Yeah.
I can relate to that. Oh my God. You know, after watching this, it clicked to me that election night is going to be, assuming we have an idea of who the winner is going to be on election night, which I think we will. We might not get a formal decision, but you know, I think we're going to get a good idea of who's going to win. Election night will be the funniest night in American history. It has to be, because think about it. Think about it. First of all, on its face, half the country is going to have a meltdown, either blue MAGA or MAGA. And we have triggered many a blue MAGA meltdown in our day. And recently, past couple months, we've triggered some original red MAGA meltdowns as well. You guys are both hilarious when you're mad. You're both really funny when you're mad. It's really quite the adorable thing to watch you guys get all riled up. Both of you guys, the lib meltdowns and the MAGA meltdowns, you're both very, very cute when you're angry and very funny when you're angry. And so that is going to be hilarious. The other hilarious thing, too, think about it. I mean, if Trump wins, it's hilarious because look at all they've done to stop him. The impeachments, the Russiagates, the January 6s, the indictments, the convictions. They shot at him, and then here he is. I mean, that's hilarious. And if she wins, I mean, imagine the prospect of living potentially 8 years under this. Imagine she's president for 8 years.
Let's start there.
Imagine she's in the news every day for 8 years. Could you imagine that?
Can you believe that's an applause line?
Could you imagine taking this person seriously as the leader of the free world, quote unquote free world, of course, for 8 years, which is a possibility if she wins? That's some funny shit. I'm sorry, that is some fucking hilarious shit right there. So either way, it's got to be the funniest night in American history. Name anything funnier than either Trump losing to Harris, Harris losing to Trump, the MAGA chuds melting down, the libs melting down. I mean, some of those things are guaranteed to happen. How is it not the funniest night in American history? Name one night that's funnier.
Yeah, some people might call it either way a doomed presidency, but people in our line of work call it guaranteed content.
Call it cha-ching. Yeah.
That is going to be an endless supply of content either way. But if you look at the people in this room, it is an explanation for Donald Trump, and it's an explanation that they'll never contemplate. The smugness, the privilege of the people in that room who define facts as establishment narratives, assumptions, and touchstones. That's what they're calling facts.
Right.
Things are only allowed to be discussed within this very narrow parameter that really does not question the nuts and bolts of the system, right down to extolling the virtues of a strong two-party system. Well, that two-party system has really undermined American democracy. Clearly. They sue all over the country to get third-party candidates off the ballot. The Democrats do. So how is that good for democracy? How is that healthy? Today, Jesse actually emailed us. Today, Jill Stein is in court in Ohio to challenge them taking her off the ballot. So no, a strong two-party system is terrible for democracy. It's very good for the ruling class that fears democracy, that sees democracy as dangerous. You know, we just Stephen King, a meme just went around of him with his thumbs up with the I'm speaking shirt with Kamala. And I started thinking about Stephen King's work in the past. And that was always in there. If you look at the Dead Zone, Greg Stilson, the villain that he assassinates, spoiler alert of this 40, 50-year-old novel, sorry if you haven't read it, that he assassinates, what makes him dangerous? What makes him beyond the bounds? He's appealing to working people with populist appeals. The candidate wears a hard hat on stage and talks a lot about people being disenfranchised. That makes him a villain. Right. So no one should be surprised that these are Stephen King's politics. It's in his books. It's always been in his books. He is a very good, you want to understand how these people think, go read some Stephen King, because he always vilifies in The Stand. Who's the devil? He's a radical in the 60s. He's a guy who's kind of on the fringes of 60s radical movements, causing the violence and disruption.
Well, you know, it's funny you mentioned the two-party system, because she says there, we need a healthy two-party system. When you talk about a fact in their mind as being nothing more than a baseline assumption of this sort of bipartisan sort of oligarchic structure, that is a very good example of that. Because when she says we need a healthy two-party system, what she really thinks is that she's defending democracy, because it's a baseline assumption that the two major parties are the only parties who deserve a microphone, right? But what she's actually saying there, we need a healthy two-party system. Well, if you need a healthy democracy, why not have a healthy multi-party system, as many European countries do? There's nothing anti-democratic about that. But that is not, I don't even think Kamala, when she says that, she consciously thinks two parties means shutting out the Libertarians or the Greens or whoever. She just assumes democracy equals two-party system. It is baked into her understanding of how this country ought to function, as it is Liz Cheney's, as it is everybody in the audience. That's why they actually do process that sincerely in their heads as an embrace of democracy, because that's how they view democracy.
Well, because it's democracy for them.
Right.
It's democracy for the kind of people who would be in that room. Rich people. The upper 20% of society. We know Stanford did this study, 10 years ago. The general population's opinion has less than a 1% impact on legislation. If you're in the upper 20%, you think you're living in a democracy. That's why all these rich libs embrace the system, because to them, what they want happens. Right? They get their mortgage deduction on their taxes. They don't care if you don't get a rent deduction. They're not in that class.
Please clap.